Hi weaving friends, I hope you're having a great day. I am feeling awesome at the moment. Can you tell why? I've just finished a scarf and the scarf is for me, so of course I'm feeling great. This scarf actually is my garden path scarf pattern. I'll link to that down below. It's available for purchase in my Etsy shop and it is my bestseller. I absolutely love this scarf and that's why I'm so excited. The color looks a little washed out on film, but this is a really nice vibrant color. I love it. I'm actually going to have a kit available with this color pretty soon, so if you like it you can look out for that. I have done mine extra wide and extra long. It's winter here at the moment. It's freezing cold and I always have a scarf around my neck. And the garden path scarf is my absolute favorite to wear. And so I wanted to make an extra wide, extra long version. That's what I've got going on here. Okay, so into the hem stitching. I actually want to show you two things today. Hem stitching around at the end, so backwards hem stitching, and also what to do when you don't have a hem stitching tail. So when you start a piece and you intend to hem stitch, usually you leave a long tail which you then thread onto a needle. I haven't actually left the tail, and I've done that on purpose because I wanted to show you this other way of creating the tail. So you'll need a length of weft yarn, exactly the same as you used for your weft. And you need it about 4 lengths the width of your project. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got the tail there already threaded onto the tapestry needle. So you can actually create your tail. I'm going to come in from the right hand side to work my hem stitch because I'm right-handed. So what I can do to make the tail, considering I want my yarn to be starting here on the right hand side, I'm going to come in about 1.5 inches and I'm coming into the first row of my weft and I'm going to pull that through, but I'm not pulling it all the way through, so I've got to hold on to the tail at the back. Okay, so my other hand is going to hold that. And I'm just going to follow the path of the weaving. That's my plain weave that I've got here already. And I'm going to basically needle weave that following the path of my last weft thread. And doing this will just anchor my tail into the work before I actually start on my hem stitch. So yeah, just following that path. It's quite long because of course it's my entire hem stitching thread. So okay, and I'm just going to speed it up a little bit by not pulling it all the way through for every single thread. I keep going until I'm at the end there. Not quite there yet. And I'm still holding my tail at the back. Sometimes it will have been lodged in by now, depending on how closely set your threads are, but mine's still feeling loose, so I'm going to keep holding it at the back till I get to the edge. And then of course, as you get closer to the edge, your threads are more bunched together at the selvage, and so the thread goes in, it holds fairly tightly. All right, now I'm right at the edge and I've made a little bit of a mess of things there, so I'm just going to give that an extra beat. So I'm in neutral position here. Okay, so there's another thing that I want to do to secure the thread before I go into the hem stitch, and that is I just pick out the first warp thread and I go to the very top of it, so I'm sitting effectively on top of my last weft thread, and pull that through, and it makes a loop, which I'm holding here. You can see the loop, don't let that go. And then I just want to take my needle through that loop and pull it right through. And that makes a sort of a lock stitch at the edge there. So it's all really very secure right now. All right, so we can launch into our hem stitch. Now at the other end of the scarf, where I've already done my hem stitching for the whole row, I was hem stitching 4-1, which to me means 4 warp threads in, 1, 2, 3, 4 warp threads in, and 1 weft thread deep. So I've got my lock stitch there. I'm going to come in up from the back. I'm going to find where that 4 is, and they are a little squashed together, so it can be a little bit hard to see right at the selvage, but try to sort of separate those warp threads so you can see where you're supposed to come up. And I go in 1 weft thread deep. Okay, pull that through. And then I want to go underneath those warp threads. And I'm breaking this down in stages. It's actually a little bit more fluid than this, but I'm breaking it down for you just to make it more obvious. Now you can see that my finger's been holding on to the end of that thread and it's created a loop. So I want to take my needle through that loop. You think of it sort of like a blanket stitch. It's got to be locked in place somehow. Then I can, pulling on my warp thread and pulling on the hem stitch thread, tighten it up, and then I've got my first little bunch of 4. I'm going to take that through to the back, and I'm going to count out the next 4. Okay, so that's my first bunch done. I'm going to count out now 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here is my next bunch. I'm going to do the same thing, coming up through the back, coming in 1 weft thread deep with my needle and pulling through. And now I've got my 4 threads there as a bunch, so I'm going to go around the back of them just like I did before, pull that through. But as the yarn's going through, I'm going to make sure I catch this loop with my thumb, and then I want my needle to go through that loop. Okay, so as I said, that's the broken down way of looking at it, and then I'm tightening things up again and dropping through to the back with my needle again. Now I'll show you what it looks like sort of sped up and done in a more fluid motion. All right, counting out my next bunch of 4. There they are. And I'm coming underneath the 4 and up underneath the first weft thread there. Pulling through. Scooping underneath those guys. Now, instead of making the loop or pulling it through until I get the loop, I can simply go underneath that. It sort of looks like I'm wrapping it around the needle, but I'm not really. I'm just going underneath it and then pulling through. And then you don't have to worry about holding the loop because, look, the loop is already there. But I wanted to show you that stage because it can be hard to understand. And then I'm grabbing my 4 warp threads there, pulling down with my hem stitch thread, and then I've got a nice tight little bundle there again. Let's dive down the back again and count off our next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, you may or may not be doing 4 threads. That's just what I happen to be doing for this particular hem stitch. You may be doing 2 threads. You may be doing 6 threads. It depends on your project and what you want your bundles to be. And of course, if you're doing it with thicker thread, you're going to have larger bundles and all that kind of thing. So, All right, up again behind my group of 4 and 1 weft thread deep. Pulling through, and then I'm going to scoop in behind there. I'm going to scoop in underneath that thread and I'm going to pull it through. Then I'm going to tighten it up. Dive down the back again. Count off my next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 weft thread deep underneath my group of 4. Pull it through. Scoop underneath the back and then make sure that that needle goes underneath my hem stitch thread. Pull through. The loop's already created. All I have to do is tighten it up. Let's have a closer look. All right, we're in a little closer this time. So I've finished off my last bunch here and I'm going to make that needle dive down through the back. Count off my next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my bunch. And I'm going to come up underneath the bunch of 4 and 1 weft thread deep. Pull through. Now I'm going to scoop under my little bunch of warp threads there. Then I'm going to go underneath this hem stitch thread and pull through. The loop's already made. Okay. So how are we going here? Is this making sense to you? I hope so. Ask me any questions you have in the comments. Counting off 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 weft thread deep. You notice how I'm using my fingers to kind of separate things. It's just really helpful. I'm not actually needing this finger at the moment, so I might as well be making my group of 4 stand up and stand out. Makes the whole thing a bit easier when you can really see what you're doing. And then I'm going underneath my group of 4 and underneath the hem stitch thread. All right, I'm going to slow it right down again because I know on video it can be a little bit mind-boggling trying to see what someone's doing. So let's just do it in the slow steps again now that we've got the close-up. Counting out 1, 2, 3, 4, or however many warp threads you want to bunch together. Coming in 1 weft thread deep. So there's my last weft thread. I want to go in that little square hole right there. And I want to pull that through. Then I want to scoop underneath. And I can pull that through, but I'm holding on to the loop. So this is the first method I showed you that's broken down into more achievable steps perhaps to begin with. Okay, I've got my loop there and then I need to take the needle through the loop so that it catches on the loop. Okay, so I've got my loop right here and I've got my thread running through the loop and it's going to catch on there. And I can tighten that up. If it doesn't catch inside the loop, it's not going to tighten. You might have a wrap of thread around your group or something, but it's not going to hold in a little knot. All right, diving down through again. And here we go, counting off 1, 2, 3, 4 warp threads. And I'm coming up 1 weft thread deep. Okay, then I'm scooping underneath. This time I'm going to use the second method to speed it up, going underneath the hem stitch thread and pulling through. Creating our loop once again, and we're going to tighten that all up. You don't have to tighten it too much or you might get puckering, but you want it nice and secure. But you know, don't go overboard with the tightening. All right, let's do one more and then I think you've got it. Counting off my 1, 2, 3, 4, or however many threads you are counting in your bunch. Going in 1 weft thread deep. So remember, of course, you could go in 2 weft threads deep, you could go in 3, 4, whatever you want to do for your particular hem stitch. I'm doing one for this. Going through and scoop underneath the hem stitch thread, pulling up the loop, grab that group again and tighten it up. So friends, I hope that this video was helpful to you, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get around to it, but I know it's going to make a difference in your weaving life. If you want to deepen your weaving learning experience, you may be interested in checking out my online weaving school where I have single classes and memberships available. You'll find all the links if you go to my website, kellycasanovaweavinglessons.com. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, happy weaving.